Hello, wonderful people, viewers, and subscribers all over the world. Black people, my people, African race. There is something that we all need to do on this platform. I want you to bring all the black people within your contact because we need to solve our problem in a radical way. And the solving of the black man problem all over the world begins with understanding the problem of an average black man. It doesn't matter whether you're a Caribbean or African American or Africans living in Africa or anywhere in Europe or Asia. It doesn't matter. The plight of black people all over the world remains the same. They face subjugation, they face oppression, they face exploitation. They're treated like lesser humans. Even this one they call African country, the fourth world country, is derogatory enough to show you how we are being graded or we are seen all over the world. It's not just because we are backward in development, but to re-emphasize and restate the fact of the white supremacy over Africans. But I cannot say it better than this Haitian brother. And after watching his statement, I said, truly, like Haiti, like the rest of African race. You know the history of Haiti? Some of you don't. But regarding what I want us to look into, I want you to listen to this brother. I'll be right back.
So Haiti is the poorest country in the world. However, you might be very surprised to find out why Haiti is the poorest country in the world. Haiti was one of the richest places on the planet in the 1700s. The population of Haiti was 4-to-1 slave to free Frenchmen. So you basically had about 450,000 slaves there and 120,000, 125,000 free Frenchmen and women. Led by a slave named Toussaint, Haiti successfully overthrew one of the most powerful armies on the planet in 1804 and declared their independence. However, France made a deal with them, with warships at the ready, saying that we will invade you, recapture you, and re-enslave you unless you pay for the lost property. Well, that lost property was the human lives of the Haitians themselves. So France slapped Haiti with a $21 billion bill. That's $21 billion in today's money. It took until 1947 to pay off the initial loan. It took Haiti almost 150 years to pay off that loan. And obviously you guys know about loans and financing and debt. So how did Haiti pay that money off? Especially because France forced them to give them 50% off of their products. So Haiti was accounting for 3/4 of the world's sugar at the time, and I think a quarter or maybe 1/3 of the entire slave trade at the time. Saint-Domingue was also known as the capital of the slave trade in the West Indies, and also the worst place for a slave to end up because it was so brutal, torturous, and you could be raped and kidnapped at any point in time and sent anywhere in the world. So that debt was financed and collected by French banks, as well as an American bank that was established in 1812, which is called Citibank. That's right. Your bank has been collecting money from Haitian people to pay for their own freedom since 1812 and stopped only in 1947. With the natural resources and the people working the land that Haiti had, it should have been one of the richest countries in the world. But the transfer of wealth from Haiti to France and Haiti to French banks and Haiti to American banks to finance what is called the independence debt, which is no more than a debt for the descendants of slavery to continue to pay the countries and the people that enslaved them for their own freedom. It's well documented. It's well documented that the debt was based on slave owners losing their property. In 2004, the Haitian government demanded that France pay back the billions of dollars that it forced the Haitian people to pay for its own freedom. So think about this. It's like France had their warships ready, just basically gangstered their way into Haiti's pockets. After Haiti beat the French military in 1804, by 1825, France had warships at the ready, off the coast of Haiti, looking at the island like, nice island you got there. Be a real shame if something happened to it. Okay? So basically, France is like, nice island you got there. Nice freedom you've gained there. Be ashamed if something happened to it. Wow. That's the most gangster, ridiculous, disgraceful shit I've ever heard in my life. In 2004, the Haitian government demanded that France pay back the billions of dollars it paid to protect its own borders and to be a sovereign nation. Can you imagine if you had to pay somebody so that they wouldn't attack you? If you had to pay somebody so that they wouldn't enslave you? If you had to pay somebody because your great-grandparents had been kidnapped and held hostage, and the price that you had to pay for a free life was billions of dollars to the people who did it. I'm trying to wrap my head around what that would feel like, and I guess you have to ask a Haitian person. Wow, France, really? Really? And after the Haitian government demanded that France pay back the billions of dollars that it unfairly had to pay to France to keep their sovereignty, to keep their freedom, to keep their lives, 11 years later in 2015, France said, fuck you. Really, France? Wow, that's not going to age well. So if you've ever wondered why Haiti's so poor, ask France. This is the most egregious and famous independence debt that the Caribbean has had to pay to its former enslavers. But it's not the only one. Just imagine where this world would be if black people didn't have to pay back the children of the enslavers. Now, I really want you to think about that for a second. Where would this world be if the descendants of slaves didn't have to pay back the descendants of the slave owners? The descendants of slaves had to pay back a debt to the people who enslaved them and their children and their children and their descendants. Where would we be if that ridiculous shit never happened? Where would Haiti be right now if France gave them back the $21 billion that they gave them for their lives and their freedom? People refer to reparations as if it's not owed, as if it's a controversial stance. However, nobody said shit when Haiti had to pay $21 billion just to keep their lives. So somehow it's controversial that the descendants of the people who were held hostage and kidnapped want to be paid for their troubles, want to be paid for the injustices done to their ancestors, and how those injustices play out and manifest in our lives today. There needs to be repair of that. However, that's a controversial issue, but it's not a controversial issue for some reason that the Haitian people and several other islands in the Caribbean had to pay back the slave owners and the slave owners' descendants for loss of property. Is it starting to sink in? I don't know what the answer is, but if you're French, I highly recommend that you reach out to your government and tell them to give Haiti their money back. It's fucking disgraceful. I love you guys. I'm just being honest.
Nobody can put it this way. Nobody can put it better than what this brother have said. And this is the root cause of poverty, deprivation, backwardness in Africa and among black community all over the world. Up till today, African countries are still paying their colonizers. Some pay levies, loyalties, and all whatnot. It seems Africans have been subjected to a world system that will ensure their perpetual poverty, hunger, and deprivation, continuous exploitation. I was having a conversation with a sister, and hopefully I'll start doing live streaming where Africans can come together to reason and fashion out the solution to their problem. Yes, we found ourselves in this hole, but we have to dig ourselves out. Nobody will help us do that. I kept saying it. Nobody will help Africans or the plight of black people all over the world except the black people. We will solve our problem. We will solve our problem. The plight of an average African is that of continuous oppression, just like Floyd. I can't breathe. Africans can't breathe. Black people can't breathe anywhere they are. They kept pay. You can imagine that. That's Haiti for so many years. We are paying France what they considered the price for their freedom and independence. For the loss. And if you check, what is this loss these people are talking about? The loss are their properties that they lost in the Haitian Revolution. Hey. And what is these properties? African people, slaves, my own people, considered as property, whom they forcefully take away from Africa. Gosh. In fact, Africans must unite because this is the only solution to this. Africans, black people all over the world must unite against this evil. Because as I speak, this evil is continuously being perpetuated all over Africa. The worst that is happening now is the encroachment of Chinese. We've said it time and over. They are taking over African territory. What are your leaders doing? Most of the political class we have in Africa are stooges to the oppressors of African nations. They are being used. In fact, they ensure that the worst of Africans are in power. Don't miss the live broadcast I'll be having with a sister. She had a platform as African Unite Force. That lady is something else, and I want you all not to miss it. By next week, I will start doing live streaming strictly for Africans, because this thing cannot just be solved from one angle. It is holistic, and we must hit it from all angles. That is the only solution to African and the black man plight all over the world. The way they degrade our people, the way they treat our people, the way they subject us. Come on. You can imagine that. Some African countries, as we speak, still pay loyalties. As they force our brothers, our fathers, our forebearers out of our land, force them into slavery and claim them as properties, and made our people in Haiti to pay for the deaths of our own brothers, their fathers that were enslaved because of the revolution. The people they killed, though, it is not that the black people killed the slaves, because it was the slaves that fought. The slave fought to free themselves. You can imagine that the slave you took by force to into slavery, now revolted to get their freedom. Then you now surround them with warships, threatening them to recapture them and recolonize them if they don't pay for the loss. The loss are the same people that you killed. Does it make sense? Does it add up? They are still doing the same thing to African countries. And that is why Africa have not been developing. That is why Africa has been backward, paying debts. The worst of its kind is the current debt being collected by the worst of political class in Africa, especially the leaders in different countries in Africa, beginning with Nigeria. They collect these loans. These loans go into private pockets and return back to wherever they came from in their bank accounts, either in Europe, Asia, or in America. And they will receive it back. And we will be in debt. We keep going backward. It is time Africans stop lamenting. It is time Africans should rise up. We should unite. The current generation of Africans must unite, because our problem is so complicated that if until we unite against this impunity, this wickedness, there may be no hope for a black man anywhere around the world. So if you're a black man, join this platform, because we are going to pull the biggest black community on the social media on this platform, where we interact, where we interface, where Africanist, Pan-Africanist, pro-black race will gather and fashion out a way to fix Africa and fix black community and their plight all over the world. That is the only solution, so that we can start breathing like humans. I'm signing out on this. I'll be having series of stock to release today, and in my subsequent video we'll be focusing more on Africa, not just about Biafra, not just about Nigeria, not just about West Africa, but the entire black race all over the world. We need to fashion out a way to get ourselves out of this misery. Stay tuned to this platform, keep subscribing, keep liking, and keep sharing to your contacts. We will not disappoint you. Here, we'll make our first stand to free African race for good. I'm signing out. Stay safe.